The Barricade Rivet style fender flare kit is for those of you that have a 1997 to 2006 TJ that are looking to swap out the flares for ones that are going to give you some additional coverage as well as a different look. You can get wider flares that are factory style flares, but as it says in the name, this is going to be a rivet style flare. So you're going to have these pockets in the flare and the rivet hardware is going to be visible, giving you a little bit of that more off-road, more tough look if that's what you're after. This set of flares is going to install very easily onto your TJ, definitely a 1 out of 3 wrench installation. The only thing that can make this a little bit more difficult is some rust on your Jeep. So if you do have some rust, give yourself a little bit of extra time. But overall, this shouldn't be something that takes you much more than 2 hours to complete. And we'll talk a little bit more about that installation in just a second. So like I said, if you have a TJ, chances are your factory flares are going to be faded. Maybe some of them are cracked, otherwise just looking a little bit older. You can spray them, you can dye them, you can hit them with a heat gun to try and bring the black back. But if you want something that is truly new, fresh, right out of the box, and you're also looking for additional tire coverage and something that gives you a different look, then that's where these are going to come in. This is going to be a very nice option for you, and it's going to be priced right in the same realm as a lot of other ones out there. There are going to be some different options out there for a wider rivet style flare kit. I happen to like this one from Barricade. I think it's well built, I think it fits well, it looks good, and the price is right. For construction, this is a tough ABS plastic. It's designed to flex a little bit before it breaks, so if you are off-road, you rub this up against a tree, it is going to give you a little bit of movement before you were to break one of these flares. As I said a couple of times now, they have these cutouts, the pockets, so that you can see those rivets, and all of the hardware that is needed to install these is going to be included, as well as some rubber weather stripping that goes on this edge that goes right up against the Jeep, and that's going to help keep these from chafing the Jeep as you're driving down the road. So your paint is going to be nice and safe even after installing these. Now, as you can see, this is going to be a 6-piece kit. I have one front, one rear, and one mini flare here, but you do get all 6 pieces. So very complete, going to replace everything that you currently have with something nice and fresh. And I've mentioned a couple times that these are wider than factory. These are going to give you 6 inches of coverage. So whether you have a wider tire, less back spacing on your wheel, maybe both, and you're looking for some additional coverage, these are going to provide that as well. As for the installation, again, 1 out of 3 wrenches, maybe a little bit over 2 hours to get these installed, but that will depend on how much rust you have on your Jeep. Those factory flares are held in place with a lot of nutserts that are attached into the body, and if you have rust between that and the factory hardware, the nutsert can spin, making it difficult to get everything apart. Now, in the areas where you can gain access to the backside and actually hold that nutsert with a pair of pliers, usually you can break everything loose, but there are a couple of spots where you don't have access to the back of the nutsert. And in that case, you're going to be drilling things out, you're going to be grinding things off, you're going to be reinstalling nutserts, or using nut and bolt hardware if you can get to the backside and the nutsert's no good. So you might have to get a little bit creative if you do have some rust. Spraying everything with a good penetrating oil well before you get started will give you the best chance of a nice, smooth installation. Now, the process is going to be fairly straightforward and fairly simple. You're just going to be removing all the hardware that attaches those flares onto the Jeep. Up front, make sure you pull the turn signal socket out of the turn signal housing before you remove the whole flare from the vehicle. Then you can unbolt your turn signal and bolt it into your new flare. That is a nice feature of these flares, that you can reuse that factory turn signal housing. You're not buying an additional light or trying to wire an aftermarket light in place. This is going to work with your factory stuff. Out back, the process is very much the same of unbolting everything. You're going to have to pull that inner fender liner away a little bit if you do need to gain access to the back side of some of those nutserts. But all in all, you're just removing the hardware, removing the flare, bolting the new ones up with the new hardware. Very straightforward, but if you have some rust, take your time. You are going to need your patience. This set of 6 flares comes in at right around $300, and I do think that's going to be a pretty good deal for you. There are some other options out there that fall right in and around this price range, so I do think these are very fairly priced. I like this design, I like the way they look, and I like the way they fit. So if you're shopping for new flares, I think these ones are appropriately priced and a nice choice. So if you're looking to swap out those factory fender flares on your TJ with an aftermarket set that is brand new, factory fresh, wider than factory, and also offers a different style, I definitely recommend taking a look at this option here from Barricade, and you can find them right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.